Started, and really just going to give a quick introduction to myself. My name is Gabriel. I'm a senior loan officer that works over with New American Funding. Been with the company, I'd say a couple of years now, coming up on 3. So, I know there's some veterans here, been here longer than I have, and I know there's most of you here are new too. So hopefully there's some things that I can actually pass along that I've learned throughout my way. But really, I feel like what really differentiates me between a lot of my colleagues is that simply I mean, it's rare to say this, but I have a passion for like sales, economics, and really the job in general. Like I love this job. So, it allows me to actually kind of dig deeper outside of work and study it. And I've done a lot of journaling and I've done a lot of experiments, or I've experimented with a lot of different things with sales or scripts and all that. So some things worked for me, some things didn't. Same goes for you. So a lot of things I might share with y'all here might work for you. It might not. It's totally cool. So I'm going to get into it. We're going to go over your sales talk and all that. But first and foremost, I do want to bring something up that is really rarely spoke about or talked about in this industry, or it should be a priority, which is kind of the mindset and mental health that you have outside of work, right? This is so important, and you'll come to find out that you're doing your best at work when you're doing best outside of work. In other words, 90% of your productivity at work has everything to do with your mindset and mental health outside of work. It's no coincidence as soon as, folks have started diets or workout routines or waking up early or change something with their outside life for the best, suddenly their work is doing good too. I've seen this pattern along not just me, but a lot of my colleagues as well. So this is something like I definitely want to encourage, especially the newer people, to start working on the right habits up front. Not only just at work, being diligent, punctual, being on time, spending a couple more hours, and just getting the right habits built here, but outside of work too. So, it sounds like a chore and everything to start habits or change things around in your life, and it's definitely a misconception that like habit building is like a restriction on your freedom, right? I feel like it's literally the opposite, because what it's really doing is like programming your brain so that you can make choices subconsciously, like really not even have to think twice about. And then you just follow a structure in your life that allows you to actually, create like financial freedom or physical freedom and all these different things through your habits. Like Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk, the most successful people in the world, the one thing they all have in common is the habits they have outside of work and through work themselves. So, I take that seriously. So I try every single day to, start, building the right patterns or the right habits that will help me in the long run. And it's genuinely literally changed my life. So anyways, besides the point, just wanted to bring that up. And if anyone has more questions on that, like shoot me an email or shoot me a DM, and then I'll be able to send you some books or whatnot. Moving forward, let's get on to the sales talk here, kind of why I'm here. So I'm going to try to stay on point here. And a lot of these things that I've picked up and learned is through books, and my mentor himself is really, really smart, and he's passed along a lot of information with me that I haven't learned it through my company itself. So I think this is going to be definitely something that someone is going to like here, or there's something going to be learned. To start off here, everything that I'm going to talk about is really going to be based off the psychology of the borrower, right? So obviously you have to know who you're talking to and what borrower you're speaking with, because there's a different types of, prospects coming from, investors or, first-time home buyers, whatever the case is. I'm going to focus on one specific category, which is, I think, is the main category right now that we're dealing with people. Okay. So I got this like realization, like an epiphany, if you will, right? A couple months ago, and I was really reflecting on my performance in ways that can actually change the way I pitch, because something's not matching up here. I was thinking about the borrowers and like the different prospects we were getting last year, right? When we had incredible interest rates. If you guys remember, we had incredible borrowers that had high FICO scores, high income, very successful people were coming in during the boom, right, of low rates. Versus now, where the rates are highest it's ever been in 20 years, and we have the most riskiest borrowers. Why is that, right? Like, why is the majority of the people we deal with are risky people, or not people, but risky borrowers? For example, low FICO scores, low income, a barely dollar to their name type of borrowers. This bothered me. So it really snapped in my head. I remember seeing Jordan Peterson say something along these lines, in which not everyone wants to succeed, right? People just don't want to feel pain or don't want to fail. And it made sense because if you look at the borrowers from last year, these people were successful people. They wanted success and prosperity for their lives, right? So they understand finances. They understand the game. In fact, some of these people barely let you work. They knew exactly what they wanted to do, and you didn't have to sell anything. It was more of an order-taking market versus now show them, the world, and they still say no, right? So I had to re-angle my pitch. Instead of selling benefit, you have to kind of sell the failure of what they can anticipate if they don't refinance. It's huge. So by shifting this angle of like how I pitched to these people, I noticed a change in my conversion immediately. I'll show you kind of ways I implement the subliminal messages of actually like inputting fear into kind of like their future, or, like you have the benefit involved and you can help these people. You just have to show them the right way for them to understand, right? So starting with the intro call. Okay. So I noticed a lot of these people are coming in talking about, okay, I don't want to do a standard refinance. I want a second mortgage, HELOC, loan, or I don't want to touch my first, whatever it is. Or like even people will say, oh, I just want to take $10,000 out. Okay. I noticed a lot of, my colleagues, like when I hear on other people's calls, people just, okay, sorry, we can't do, and they close the deal and, move on to the next, which sucks because there's plenty of deals on the table that they just don't know, because these people and these prospects really don't know what's best for them, and they don't know what they even need, right? Or even want. They just know that they have to solve this problem that's just in the air. So it's your job to dissect the whole situation, dig deep, find all the pain points, and then figure out, yes, whether or not you can even help them in the first place, right? So in other words, do not ever turn down like a potential prospect from the very beginning of the call because they said they want something specific you can't offer. Dig deeper. Just say you can help them. I know there's a lot more things that I don't see up front that I find later that can end up helping me close. So nonetheless, and that's kind of like the structure of the whole structure of the call. I always aim, like I focus and I try to pull out any sort of pain points, or I like to call them ammo for your gun, right? So you want to, save up all your ammo for the pitch so they can, kind of like knock them out. For example, a piece of ammo would be dependents, right? Knowing how many kids they have, the ages, because you don't know if they're going to go to college soon or if they need a car soon, or whatever the case is. That's a pain point. And number two would be like assets. A lot of loans that I do don't even require assets to originate or to approve. So I still collect assets, or I ask them how much they have in savings or checking or retirement, so I can have an idea like what, like their net worth, right? Because if a borrower, or if you're pitching and they say no and they only have $1,000 to their name, that's a huge selling point. If knowing that they have, barely any money to their name, that's a pain point. And then going on to credit, that's another pain point too, showing them their FICO score and how low their FICO is, and really educating them that like your FICO is almost your greatest investment, right? It's a huge representation of who you are to, banks and any type of financial transaction that you make. So that is also crucial, which my mentor taught me, and it's a game changer if you guys don't do this. And I know when you pull credit with a borrower, take your time and walk them through and educate them on their accounts, like all those credit lines they have opened up, explaining them what compounding interest is, explaining them that there are adjustable rates. This is all going to be part of building the rapport your rapport, right? It's a misconception, and I think it's utter bullshit that some people think that rapport building is asking about their dog or asking about their, favorite football team. Like, it's a joke. So I don't like following that type of ideology, whatever. Rapport building is all about educating and being the expert and being that consultant to come through. So this is a great opportunity, and it's an easy point for you to just walk them through credit, explain to them. And then one last thing, when you go through credit with your borrowers, make sure you identify, and I'm actually going to share my screen here with you right now. Here what I have is a credit report. This is a pretty clean credit report. As you can tell, there's only like 4 accounts opened. So once you open up their credit, explaining them their FICO, if it's good or bad, why they need to improve it, you're going to go down each account and go over it and ask if it's an adjustable rate or fixed, Credit cards, as we know, are adjustable rates. So you educate them like, hey, this is an adjustable rate. And also it incurs compounding interest. So explain to them what compounding interest is, right? And how deadly it is to be on this. So this all here and talking over their credit report, and assuming that they're not here for a debt consolidation, you're subliminally, inputting these ideas that you're going to perhaps go over a debt consolidation down at the pitch, right? Because you want to input this idea that this is unhealthy debt and that they don't want to be on it, right? This is a way we're going to be able to free up cash flow later down the line, okay? Make sure you go take your time, find the interest rates, and save that in your arsenal. So you add up all the rates and then divide it by the number. So you have 4 accounts here, and then you add the mortgage. So all those rates divided by the number, you find the average consumer rate. So the average consumer rate, because the credit cards are on here, it's always going to be on the higher end, right? It's going to be like 12, 13%, and that's their average consumer rate. But don't tell them yet. Save that into your notes, and then you'll get back to it later, okay? So now that you've gone over the credit report with the borrower, add it up and save the rates, then you finish the application, whatever you need to ask, make sure you ask assets and all that, right? Everyone's different, okay? But to go on to the pitch, okay, when you're pitching the borrower, you have to answer 2 questions. You have to answer, number 1, does this make financial sense to get this loan done, okay? And why does it? And you also have to answer, am I the right person to deliver this product to you, okay? So through the second one, obviously you have to brand yourself. You have to brand your company in any which way you can. I have to leave that up to you. My brand is more of transparency and being straight up. So whatever words you use, it's important to brand and use your character to your advantage, right? So we're going to go through kind of like a summary of what my pitch kind of looks like with the way I add up all the pain points, okay, and what words and vocabulary I use. I'm going to try to make this quick. Try not to ramble here, but let's start from the beginning. Reframe kind of the call. You went through a full app, so kind of reframe. Hey, so you came here for, X, Y, Z. I have a couple ideas in mind. I want to run it by you and see what you think, okay? You go on. Okay, so as you mentioned towards the middle of the call, we had gone over a couple of your counts on your credit report. I did the math. Your average consumer rate between all your debts right now is 11, 12%, whatever you found, right? My idea is that since these are such high interest rates, compounding interest, it would make a lot of sense to be able to wrap it into a loan. That way you don't overextend yourself on payments so you can get the cash out that you want. The idea is that you're showing them the average consumer rate of 12, whatever high rate you found, and you're bringing it down to 7%, rather than showing them at the 3% on the mortgage going up to a 7%. So it's a completely different angle that you pitch it at, because right now everyone's increasing the rate. We're at a highest rate ever. So no one's at a 7% unless they're with a private lender or a hard money loan of whatever the sort. So, right. So that's something that changed the way I've pitched too, right? And these are the 3 points that people miss out on when they're pitching too. So we're going down on the rate, assuming you're doing some sort of debt consolidation. Okay. Not only are we going down on the rate, but we're going to put them on all fixed interest rates that are now simple interest, much healthier. Like, as we can both agree, it's the most healthiest form of interest. And then number 3 is now a tax deductible at the end of the year. So you kind of hit all 3 points, and they're freebies. I mean, majority of the time you can use these as freebies at every single pitch you do. Now, I want to put a scenario up that I get quite often, and it's those people who have, let's say, call it $1,000 to their name. Low FICO, let's call it a 660 FICO score. And they're saying no because they don't want a higher rate, like they don't want the 7%, they think it's higher, or they don't want to use their equity, okay? So this is kind of the way I tackle it. I might ramble off a little bit, but I'm going to try to hit all the points. Typically, it goes into fluid conversation, but I kind of want to get the main point across. So I'll start it off something like, Mr. Smith, I understand, you have a 3% on your mortgage, but regardless if you have a 2%, 1%, or even a 10%, it does not matter. Okay. What matters is that you are right now living paycheck to paycheck. God forbid anything bad were to happen to you. Would you be prepared to be able to handle those expenses or handle whatever is going to come across? Look, my father always told me to never be one bad month from not being able to pay your bills. And right now you're in the exact position as that. So in reality of it, your FICO is super low. I'm grateful that I'm even able to get a deal for you as of now, considering where the market is. So, you could be one bad month from not even qualifying anymore, right? So I hate to be pushy in any way, but this decision, it's something to be made within this week, or else it might not be available any longer. Okay. And with that being said, you're saving X amount of dollars. Okay. And you are creating a savings of X amount of dollars, right? We're putting $10,000 in your savings account, right? So this is going to prepare you for the recession we're about to embark on. It's no secret that we're with the highest inflation historically. Prices of goods are increasing. So eventually you're going to be at a deficit, right? You're barely making your payments on your credit cards. What are you going to do when you can't even pay for your mortgage, right? This is going to default and eventually end up into foreclosure. And that's what happens to most Americans during recessions. Okay. So I want that to be prevented for you. And we will wrap around to the interest rate later. By sheer nature of the economy alone, we're going to see rates drop eventually. It could be 1 year, it could be 2 years or 3 years, but we'll get you back on that and get you back on that lower payment and rate in no time. This is just a stepping stool to get you to where you need to be right now. Okay. But yeah, that's kind of like, I keep on going in rambles with them, and I'll dissect their brain and see where they're at. But towards the end, they need to realize that, like, look, this is like something they can't say no to, and that's the majority of these borrowers right now. And then that's the way, because if you were to show them benefit and success with these type of things, like, they don't end up like saying yes because they don't want to put the energy and they're like, busy, whatever the case is. They'll find any excuse in the book to avoid it. But once they feel the pain and you create that imagery for them of what it would feel like if they don't proceed with you, then that's when they start getting friction, and then you can start getting documents and all that. But either way, I feel like that was a huge ramble, but let's move on to the last thing here I will share with you, and that's retaining, or retainers, whatever you call. So retaining clients. This is big because we get a lot where we close a borrower or we close a client, okay, and 10 days later, they send the email, or the appraiser sends the email, or the processor sends the email, say borrower is not interested any longer. They want to withdraw, okay? Which is kind of funny because they never like to confront you directly because you have built that relationship with them. So, most of the time. Now, the way I handle this, and the way I feel like the most strategic way to handle this, is getting them on the phone immediately, right? You don't want to wait on this any longer. But how do you get them on the phone, right? Because they emailed you. They don't want to be confronted. So I use this email that's super quick and easy, where it's like, hey, Mr. Smith, I hate to see you go. Let's make sure we withdraw your file accurately. Give me a quick call. Just take 1 minute. Okay, whatever the way you like to word it, but get that point across. What this does is disarm their guard, because they have their guard up. They don't want to be resold. They don't want to have to go through confrontation. So they're like, okay. So they call you thinking that we're just withdrawing the file, right? So when you call them and get them on the phone, say, hey, Mr. Smith, so bummed to see you leave. I'm in the middle of withdrawing your file here, but just curious, what's a sudden change of heart? Was it something that I've done? And when you present it in that way, you seem kind of like a friend kind of asking, what's going on, right? And they'll tell you and unleash everything, right? That's where you have to repitch, kind of start from square one, and then dismantle any type of worries they have, or disarm any worries they have, right? This is because 80-90% of the time, whatever worries they have from the beginning is like solvable, right? Now I'm going to be completely straight up. If they're not leaving because they don't qualify or because they're selling the property, take 100% accountability. It's 100% your fault, right? You obviously didn't gain their trust well enough, or you didn't sell them well enough. So one of those two things went down, and that's where you have to sit back and reflect on what you could have done different. And that's how you become a better loan officer, right? But that's just kind of like a quick pointer for retaining. But yeah, so that's kind of like my little spiel there. Hopefully I went over everything I wanted to go over. I think I basically did, but either way, guys, we're running out of time here, so I'm going to let you go. But please send me a DM or email if you want any book suggestions or anything like that, or if you need any advice from me. I'm happy to walk through files with y'all and everything. Again, there's a lot more, more educated people in this company that I am, but